Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorena Creole, and joining me is her of positive fandom. How are you doing, my dear?
I'm doing well, Lorena, and so glad to be here. I can't wait to watch this film with you. Although I have seen this film before, Lorena, have you seen 2001: Space Odyssey?
It has been a long time. 2001: A Space Odyssey is, of course, one of those classic sci-fi films. It would run maybe on the weekend or something, and it was one of those films where I'd have running in the background, but never really sat down to watch it. So I haven't seen it all the way through in years, but can never forget the score and those beautiful practical effects for all those space scenes. They were so wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely, Lorena. This film is such a classic, and it does have a lot of beauty in the score. Certainly, there's a special choir I think that was brought together to do some of the operatic, sounds, and there was so much thought into this. It is a Kubrick film, as we all know.
Yes. Folks have to keep that in mind. It is a Stanley Kubrick film.
And so there's so many things that stand out, and of course this first shot that you're showing with Hal, which is the onboard computer, and we all understand what that means. It's in our lexicon now, everyday life, of Hal kind of seeing everything, knowing everything, but also this cool space station that they're on, and there are just these fantastic displays of what is life on a space station, and let me walk.
Mhm.
I will walk, and I'm walking upside down, and it's like it's so cool. I want to go to this space station so bad.
It's interesting that you mentioned the space station, because if you go to Epcot and you ride Mission Space, in the queue is literally a replica of one of those space station scenes from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it purposely looks like it. And it's just awesome to see. So I haven't seen this in years. I cannot wait to see this. Look at the popularity on IMDb. This
Mhm.
shows just how popular of a film this is. Again, it's Kubrick, which means, he kind of takes his time with giving you that visual, and with the music, and with his trademark style of storytelling, which is slow to some, perfect for others, but you can't deny Kubrick's genius when it comes to directing. So, folks, let's see who's in the chat really quick. I'll give you guys a chance to get your physical copy or your digital copy. And to repeat for some folks who do not know, since this is live, we cannot put the film on screen, even though it's 1968, but it's not in public domain yet, so we can't do that. But we do have this lovely timer here that will sync up, so you can sync up your copy to our timestamp and keep along with where we are with regards to the commentary. So, first off, a big thank you to Senator Amidala, who became a member of my channel. Thank you so very much, my dear. Lots of great channel member features that you guys have, like the member emojis, all of that, special videos, pictures, and of course the monthly live stream, which I need to schedule the monthly live stream, and the monthly watch party, because I have to schedule that watch party for Airplane. I did promise that we are going to see that. And Alan Reichheit man is here, says my all-time favorite movie. All right. So we're definitely going to be looking forward to some commentary from you. And Lonnie Holcomb, hello, says, and this has been retweeted. Well, thank you so much, my dear, for retweeting that out. I appreciate it. And Chef Nation is in the chat. Says, good evening, beautiful people. Little Chef, Little Docky Chef, and I are ready for a classic. Well, y'all are in for a treat. Cannot wait. It's going to be awesome. John Ware Jr. says, "Evening, ladies. Will watching this movie make me an official science fiction fan?" LO.
Yes. Yes, it will, because it explores a lot of elements of science fiction that are essential. Yes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's the script for this is, I believe, based on a collaboration between sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick. So, yeah, it'll make you officially one. You'd have the cred. And Larry, hello. The name's so nice, you got to say it twice. Says the soundtrack was a placeholder.
Hmm.
Really? Huh. That's interesting. Interesting. Alex North was paid to compose the soundtrack and it was rejected by Kubrick. Re-
I didn't know that.
I would love to know the reason why. Not to question his artistic vision, but I'm just curious as to why he rejected it. But the Alex North soundtrack is available. Now, that's something I need to check out. That's something I totally did not know. Man, did not know that. And yes, the movie is on HBO Max. If you have HBO Max, you can watch it there. You can, of course, always rent it off of Amazon, iTunes, Vudu, Redbox online, places like that. You can also get it. And Tim Hayes just became a member. So thank you so very much for becoming a channel member. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I have no idea. I'm just going to hit the play button and see what happens.
I hope we're starting with the overture, but it might be a little long, but it does set the tone, and I'll do whatever you like.
Yeah, we're real big on if there's a director's cut, if there's an extended cut, if there's an unrated cut, that's the one that we go with. So we are going to go ahead and get started. 2001, A Space Odyssey from 1968, starring Gary Lockwood and is a Stanley Kubrick film. So, my dear, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Three, two, and one. Hit the button. It sounds so.
It sets the tone, doesn't it?
It really does. It's almost like how, when an orchestra tunes up and you're not quite sure what's going to be played, but everyone's you hear the individual instruments, and
Yes.
that anticipation before.
Cacophony.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That lovely SAT word, yes. And it
I think
kind
I
of.
just read it this week, so don't worry. It's not. It was just literally maybe even a day or two ago. So
It's like it's literally it is pitch black
mhm.
and all you can hear is the music.
So this, I believe, and I could be wrong, and maybe Lorraine, maybe some of the people in the chat know, this is supposed to be, um, I guess maybe the formation of life at this point, or it's at first there was darkness, and then
Mhm.
life appears. The sudden special moment that life appears. So this is, at least I think that's what this was interpreted as. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody out there
Okay.
knows.
I just know it's the music is so intriguing with the way that it started out with not quite knowing what's going to be played to this like build. The music builds and then it contracts on itself, and then it builds a bit more and contracts on itself. So it's I've never seen anything like this.
And Alan talks about being as far away from 1960s space music as possible. He chose classical music and classical performers as well for the vocalizations, which I'm sure Alan knows. You're going to hear some very specific professional vocalists who are involved in a lot of the vocal sounds that we hear. They're not words, they're vocalizations, like, and things like that. As well.
Oh, I love vocalizations.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now this scene here in the film was very important, but there's a famous space photo of, I think, from one of the space missions where they took a photo of Earth, and it was from the point of view of the moon or something, and that kind of is very reminiscent of this. And maybe someone knows about that, but
Let's see. Let me bump it up like this. There we go. So we can see the time a little better.
Here's a little crazy today, but
Ric Flair intro music. I forgot about that.
And it's like do 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 do,
I love how this looks, and it's such an iconic part of pop culture when you hear the 2001 theme.
It really is, Lorena, I think. And this might be the part where we start to hear the vocalizations in the dawn of man. And you're going to hear, I can't remember, but you might hear some unusual vocalization or unusual noises. And it are these incredible vocalists, and maybe Alan knows more about it. I can't remember which vocal group did it. They're opera singers, I think.
Okay.
It was every single comment and noise was composed. So they're following very specific vocalizations in this. And it's remarkable because I think it'd have to be professional vocalists who can do it. But yeah, you can't recreate the sound of it because it's so different.
I hear you.
At least for me.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear this. I love vocalizations. There's just something about them. Hey, an unexpected fire said, howdy, y'all. Got the notification just in time. We're glad that you are here. And I missed your intro. Is this Lorena Creel's first watching? It isn't my first watching, but I haven't watched it in so long. I can't remember the movie. I remember bits and pieces and scenes, but not like sitting down seeing it from beginning to end.
Yeah,
clearly not.
It's not because the Museum of the Moving Image, which is in Astoria, New York, it's not exactly down the road from me, but it's close, and I spent a lot of time in that museum about movies, and Kubrick's like a big deal in the place. So they always have special showings of 2001 and his other films as well. And I actually prefer some of the versions that are clear, crystal clear, especially as I'm not seeing as well, Lorena. Like I don't see as well as I used to. And those sharp images make a big difference when your vision is an issue. So, sometimes seeing the older versions isn't, oh my gosh, Chris Gore's here, Lorena.
Chris, hey, Chris, how you doing? Says, I watch 2001 every month just to remind myself the heights cinema can reach. I get you on that, because this was it was such a huge film. I was aware of just how big it was. And when I took a screenwriting course in college, 2001 was one of the movies that we talked about, and just how much it's referred to in pop culture.
Agreed.
I love Kubrick.
He is great, isn't
He's a
he?
little weird, but yeah, good seeing you, Chris.
Yeah.
I need this one on in 4K. I'm like obsessed with that now, with getting films on 4K because
Yeah,
they
that's
just look so good.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to, Lorena, is that boy, it really is makes such a huge difference when you want to see details. That's when I was younger, it did not matter to me. Now it really matters. And
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's like if there was a choice between this and Star Wars, I was watching I was watching Star Wars. Chris says, "Hey, Kubrick kept cutting the film after it was released. This was common back in the day. Lucas did the same with Star Wars. So
mm,
made a different cut after the theatrical cut. That's interesting.
yeah, that is very interesting.
Huh. So they were doing the director's cut before the director's cut became popular.
Yeah, and I guess this at the studio has their impression of what they would like the final cut to be, and the director's like, no, 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 this is the vision. Kubrick was very controlling, which is good, over his films, and
Mhm.
so I think it's very interesting that the studio would decide to have any influence over this. But clearly, this is his vision. I don't see it being anybody else's vision.
Yeah. Someone just sent me the Alex North score on Twitter. I'm looking forward to that.
Mhm.
Alan says, I watched 2001 every New Year's Eve, in 2010 every
What
New
a,
Year's Day.
what a great setup, Alan.
I
That's
like that.
fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch
To
2010
do that,
eventually.
like, I don't know, but that's fantastic, Lorena.
John Lennon actually helped 2001 become popular when it kind of bombed on initial
Oh,
release.
I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
I didn't
There's
either.
all this trivia from these classic films that I don't know, and I love it when I find out.
And Lorena, I can't help but think of animal behavior. You and I talked about Planet of the Apes, and this is kind of what we're seeing here, except,
Mhm.
this is not fictitious. I don't see this as fictitious. This is a theoretical idea of what life might have been like thousands of years ago for
Mhm.
a common ancestor. So it's a little different than Planet of the Apes, which is pure science fiction.
Mhm.
But I think this type of depiction of life, early life, is truly done so beautifully, Lorena. Um,
It is absolutely, gorgeous, and when I think about, like, one of my favorite habitats to visit at the animal kingdom is the primate exhibit. Even when I was a kid, we'd go to the primate exhibit at the zoo just to see, like, how they live, how they operate kind of, in groups, and as a kid, we're just like, "Oh, they're kinda, like, living in families," and, and everything. And that leopard, the glowing eyes of that leopard, that's gotta be, like, a high def restoration. I'm filled with useless movie trivia
it's
knowledge.
not useless
Dude,
because
it's not useless, man.
a lot of it has to shows us a lot about the development of cinema through time, and that's important. It's not useless. It's history. It's cinematic history, and that's what we're here for. We're watching this film and enjoying fantastic cinema. So cinematic history isn't useless.
Hey, Matt G, Chris Gore, there, Chris Gore, wrench him. Chris is so busy. I don't think you need a unless you want a wrench. I could definitely give you one. Humans messing with other humans sounds right to me. Mm. And John Ware Jr. says both Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve cite Kubrick as a major inspiration for their work. And you know what? I can totally see that.
Mhm.
Completely see that.
Yeah, for me, one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite films is because of the fact that the story is told without necessarily a lot of dialogue. And yes, there may be communication sounds and things like that, but I love stories that are told without a lot of dialogue. I love where the story
Mhm.
unfolds this
Like,
way.
A Quest for Fire. Do you ever see
Mhm,
that one?
mhm,
That was kinda wild, but I loved watching it. It was different,
mhm.
not not like dialogue as as we know it.
And of course,
Left.
here, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Lorraine.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're seeing, one of the most important parts here of the film is this, I'm going to call it figure that appears.
Ah. Okay. Thank you, Alan. All this great trivia. Ah, and there's the again. That's the pop culture reference. The obelisk and all of the and all the chimpanzees around.
Right.
They did it in The Simpsons, y'all.
Mhm. Oh, monolith. I'm sorry. Unexpected Fire told us what it is. It's called a
Okay,
monolith.
the monolith. I
Thank
called
you.
it the obelisk,
I
but the
called it a figure.
monolith.
I called it a figure, but
That thing that looks like it doesn't belong there.
yes.
And
Thanks so
all
much,
of
guys,
those
for doing that
actors
too.
in costume, except for two baby chimpanzees. Wow.
It looks good, Lorraine. It looks really good.
Exactly. There's my meme. They're just like fascinated. They're just like, we don't know what do we make of it? We're not quite sure what it is. If you
I like they're like touching it and
it's like a Black Mirror and iPhone in a way, yeah, because you're kind of like everybody's stuck to the phone. They're enamored by the phone. That's funny.
and there I know some of you in the chat have the story about this particular monolith. There's something about it when they were filming, or there's some story behind it, but uh yeah.
But yes, the vocalizations that you hear, yes. Mm-hmm. It's such an eerie sensation. And you see the sun come over it and nothing. Space Dave 2000 says, won't lie, though this movie is classic, hard to rewatch. Yeah. The pacing is different. So I would like to put on like music and like movies, not to necessarily pay attention to, but to study to. But it's like I couldn't figure out what was going on because there wasn't any dialogue. But the scenes you see, they're just beautiful. Beautiful. 10 of you folks here in the chat, thank you so very much. We are watching 2001 A Space Odyssey from 1968, starring Gary Lockwood. And we are 15 minutes and 42 seconds into the film. After 2001, Keir Dullea went on to star in a Canadian sci-fi series called The Star Lost, created by Harlan Ellison, writer from Star Trek The Original Series, and written by former Star Trek The Original Series writers.
So this is, I believe, and I could be wrong, guys, about learning how to use tools, let's say. You see, right, Lorena?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Only seen. Yep. Yep. And the pacing is perfect. It lulls you in a hypnotic way. And it's perfectly scored.
Yes.
And I love how the pipe organ finishes it up. Gives it like that gothic edge to it. Chris says, so happy you're featuring this movie. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's like all these cool movies that I know I saw it at least once. I
But
think it was the last movie, the last drive-in where I lived was, and I think this was probably one of the last movies that was playing there. I didn't see it because I fell asleep in the car.
aw, but it's still a good memory, right?
Still a good memory because the music and that opening, scene with, the moon, earth, and the sun, and of course the chimpanzees. I think around here was when I fell asleep and then I woke up and they were on the space station. That's why I only remember like slices and bits and pieces of
And yes, John Ware, the best pace is a consistent pace.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Real baby chimps.
Mm-hmm. Aw.
I know, I saw one a couple of weeks ago. It was so cute. You know what? Which came first, this movie or Planet of the Apes? The first Planet of the Apes movie.
Um, what year was this? Was this 68? I think
This
Planet of
is
the Apes was also
68.
68, wasn't it? We should know this, Lorena.
I know. I feel like a bad.
Yep, 1968. They're both the same year, I think.
How coincidental. And I did watch the Planet of the Apes. That was some quality entertainment.
I think, for science fiction, yeah, I know. And of course, this is where things cross the line where you kill one of your own, another
Hmm.
human or another. That's
And
another step in the evolutionary process.
yeah,
But
and you can tell some of them are just like, no, we're scared. This
"You
is
shall not
wrong.
kill ape." Wait, wrong movie. But Lorena, you make a good point about the year because, you know, during that time there was a focus on movies and talking about did let's say did we have a common ancestor with non-human primates? I'm saying it in a way that's not like we evolved
Hmm.
from apes, like our ancestors are ape, but the idea of having a common ancestor to
Hmm.
non-human primates. We are primates as well. So yeah, that's what that is alluding to. And it was controversial.
Absolutely. That it definitely was that type of analogy to kind of say humans descended from primates. That was a very controversial take.
Mhm.
Now this, I remember this.
That model is like Space 1999, or you wanted that toy. This is the toy.
Hmm. And this is after man, 1960. No, this was before we landed on the moon.
Mhm. And we're still waiting for the space station that's spirally that looks like this.
That what you see right there, that is what you see in mission space. Literally, when you walk through the queue, there's a cross section. So you see the cross section of it with the living quarters. And yeah,
Wow.
that is straight out of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Wow. God.
And I hadn't seen the movie in years. And I'm like, I know this. I totally know what this is. And people remark 2001: A Space Odyssey every time they say it. Planet of the Apes came out March 27th, 1968. 2001: A Space Odyssey came out on April 2nd,
Days of each other,
1968.
Lorena.
Wow.
Days.
I wonder if I'm pretty sure people knew what movies were going on and if Kubrick found out about Planet of the Apes.
It's like I'm almost tempted to say, "Oh, my nail polish is floating
I
around."
know. Just that's the only hint that you have that there's zero G. I love it. And in how many commercials have you heard this score and you see like something just floating in the air? Yes, exactly. That's what I said. This was before the moon landing. That's what makes it more remarkable about looking at all of this. I'm pretty sure they got some stuff from the earlier Apollo programs and Gemini programs. Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. But yeah, this is what makes it so much even more remarkable. This was before we set foot on the moon. It looks like looks like the inside of an airplane.
It did. It did look like the inside of an airplane. It did.
Like one of those 1960s Eastern Airlines ads.
Mm-hmm.
Unexpected fire. Never realized she has Velcro shoes until tonight. Oh.
But it's interesting the things you see. This is one of those films where you recognize or see things. You don't see everything the first time or the second time or the third time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a space plane. Yes. Grip shoes. You can thank the space program for Velcro.
Mm-hmm. And look at the console graphics that we just saw. That looks cool. It looks real.
IBM. Oh my gosh. Yes, the space shuttle is actually powered by 5 IBM computers that work on a voting system. I saw it, and trust me, it was pretty ancient, but I'm like, IBM
Now,
in space.
does this scene remind you of any science fiction movie you've ever seen before? This part.
Oh, yes, that kind of looks like the Imperial Star Destroyer bay, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing these scenes, and I don't remember that scene at all.
I don't
But
know.
as soon as you pointed out, I'm like, that looks like that's from Star Wars. John Moore Jr., do you think this movie was a part of the space race Americana push? Absolutely. Absolutely. We were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at trying to get to the moon before the Soviets. I'm being specific, before the Soviets got there. So this was huge.
I'm still pissed that it isn't the future we got. I'm like, there must be a space station up. You know how they have conspiracy theorists who say we never went to the moon? I'm the opposite. I'm like, I know they got something up there.
Hey, wholesome DJ Aftershock. Good seeing you. I haven't seen you here before, so welcome. IBM is a shell of its former self. Shame. Yeah. Yeah, it's not what it used to be. Look at her stewardess outfit. That is so 60s.
I know, with the pillbox hat, the matching, Ralph Lauren, or maybe not Ralph Lauren, but who was the designer who did these
Was it
outfits?
De La Renta? Was it De La Renta? Or was it oh god, De La Renta, Halston? Who the heck dressed Jackie O?
It was
That looks like an old school computer room.
yes. Who did those?
Chris Gore says George Lucas was very influenced by 2001. When he saw it, he realized he could make his space fantasy. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool to know. So cool to know. Where's my spinning space station, NASA? Yeah, the International Space Station doesn't really quite do it like that. It just orbits around a planet. That is so fortunate, Chris. I would love to see this film in IMAX. Mm-hmm. You can see where Lucas THX 1138 got its inspiration from. Yes.
Oh, definitely.
I saw that movie one time. Mm-hmm. An Earthlight room. That a Hilton? Okay, that's funny. I saw a Hilton and a Howard Johnson Earthlight room. Okay, so I guess the different hotel chains have an Earthlight room and a picture phone. How interesting. Chris says 2001 is the first movie I saw as a kid in a theater and it messed with my head. My dad took me to a retrospective screening.
Mm.
Nice. You never forget these first movies, like first cinematic experience of a film. I want to go to space. Okay, okay. I thought I was seeing things there for a minute. And that's Stanley Kubrick's daughter?
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
FaceTime, love it. Yeah. This is literally FaceTime. Y'all lucky people who got to see this in IMAX.
Yeah. I'd love to see this in IMAX.
I so would. I think video phones existed in the 60s, but they required dedicated comm lines. That would have been an extreme amount of data back when computers were the size of like those huge, those huge computer rooms.
Like, is it a mainframe computer? Is that what they were?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which eventually now, of course, now we have server farms, but back then for like a mainframe computer, I remember the first time I saw a mainframe room, I'm like, where does the computer start and where does it end? I don't know where the heck it is.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because they also had those computers that had moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why are there moving parts in a computer?
And with some of them that had like the robot retrieval ones, oh, I had fun when I had to work with those. And I'm like, no, bad robot. No, don't do that. Don't get that one.
Well, Hilton is still around. That is still around. It's still a big company.
Mm-hmm. Howard Johnson, I think they did they get absorbed by Marriott?
Yeah, they did.
I think they did. Yeah.
But they were around for a long time.
Very much so. Synonymous with the American road trip. John Moore Jr. says practical sets with crisp lighting, colors, and textures on celluloid film. Celluloid make this film feel so real and lived in. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels good to watch this. Wholesome DJ Aftershock. You're giving me PTSD with this. Everything was coded in Fortran. I despise that language so much, dude. I remember I had to take a comp sci class, and it's like, how come we're not learning C? Why the heck are we stuck learning Fortran? Because you may have to use Fortran. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Sure. And then I had to work with a mainframe project.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what it was coded in?
Fortran.
I got so much crap. They're like, how old is that computer? How much dust is in it? Of course,
Yeah.
now that would be like having like something running Windows 95.
Yeah. And it's a shame, Alan, that they're gone. They were two fantastic airlines.
God, yeah. That was like, yeah, let's go to Hojo's restaurant with the motel attached to it.
Great. Hojo's was great. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. That was when, oh, Fortran, Lord. Could have been worse. It could have been COBOL.
A teletype. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I've only seen one of those in a museum.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
It is a nice looking lounge.
It's beautiful. It's literally the 60s in a bottle.
Yeah.
When you see this, I feel like James Bond is going to walk through here anytime soon. If you see like pictures of Disney World from like the early 70s, it's the same aesthetic. Love the mod furniture and this
Yeah, I love it too.
mod look. Cobalt didn't have recursion until recently. No thanks. Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
We kind of nerded out there with that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know some statistical packages. That's what I know, like old statistics stuff like SAS and
Hmm.
stuff that nobody on Earth uses anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, recursion, where you can change the method of something.
Mm.
Kind of think, yeah, like recursion. Yeah. Something
Does
you
that,
definitely can't do then.
does that mean that if you start a project and you want to change something, you have to start all over again?
Um, let's see. Gosh. It's like with the function calling itself.
Okay.
It's it's one of those things where I just had to know of it. And when I would ask about it, oh, we got the developers can handle that. But it's something that's necessary to procedural programming.
From the space station.
Not procedural, excuse me. When you're dealing with object oriented programming.
This is one of the parts that I love.
Yes, when she's walking up the, you're just like, and comfy chairs. Yes, very comfy looking chairs. Yeah, I saw it at Epcot in in oh gosh, what's that darn thing called? Spaceship Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get to the replica of Steve Wysocki, no, Stephen Wozniak putting together the first Apple computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So you see the difference between a huge mainframe computer room and this little tiny computer on his desk.
Wow. Zero gravity toilets. It's a suction. That's what it is. It's a suction.
This is so cool. Ed Bishop later to appear in Jerry Anderson's UFO. Okay. Zero gravity toilet.
Mhm.
Dude, just hook the vacuum cleaner up to your butt. That is literally the space toilet. I will never forget the day when I first found that when I was working with the shuttle program. I'm like, where is the space toilet? It's like, there it is. $50 million built by the lowest bidder. I'm like, well, how does does it work? Oh, it's a vacuum. I'm like, for everything. Yep. Everything. He's like, yeah. I'm like, man, I don't even know what the smell wants to be like. It's crazy.
It has to be vented out, or else the fumes would be harmful. So
I'm like, wow, a vacuum. That's a lovely story to tell at cocktail parties. You just love it. It's like you're taking this ride into a space. Jim Watari says, I worked with large tape drives and large disk drives. Okay. I worked with not those tape drives like the ones you see with the big computer rooms, but I worked with one that was like a robotic array. So I had to send computer instructions to the robot, and the robot would go and fetch the tape and go get it and put it in that way. But yeah, the mainframe rooms with the big, the big ones that turn and blip and everything. This is the only intentional joke in the movie. Oh, the zero gravity toilet. I have to laugh because that was before the shuttle program where I had no idea. I mean, I don't know how it worked in the Apollo program. I didn't ask then. For some reason, the space toilet didn't occur to me then, but crack up the Craftsman wet dry vacuum.
They're almost indestructible.
Oh, yeah. I remember that scene when they're on the moon and you can see it. Hey, Dylan C says, hey, Lorena. Hey, Hurton. Just popping in every few minutes due to packing.
Packing? Ooh,
yeah, she's finishing moving into a new house.
Nice. Congratulations.
I love how this looks.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly paced with them landing. Back in the 1970s and 80s. Yeah. Yeah. When I would read with my coding books and we'd have to go through the history of computing, and then we'd look at these computers like, goodness, they're huge. We do have rockets that can land on their tails these days, so we are getting there.
It is so impressive to see those rockets land on their tails. It's nuts. It's like, what did you just? It looks like a gymnastics for a rocket. Like, it doesn't seem right. It's like, you shouldn't be able to land like that. You realize how freaky that is.
Exactly. And Wholesome DJ Aftershock, to think the average CPU was around 1 megahertz back in this era. Now CPUs are multi-core and are well past 4 gigahertz. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Absolutely. Remember when it was like kilobytes was a big thing?
I do.
It's like megabytes, gigabytes. Who would know that we'd be dealing like in terabytes, petabytes? Who needs a terabyte of storage?
I need several terabytes.
Yeah. Things got that way.
I'm trying to see if I can get a movie collection, but digitally stored.
Ooh, nice.
That would be a lot of terabytes, right?
Oh, yeah. You're going to need several. You're going to need an array. You might need a petabyte, actually, storage.
Do people do it? Do people store movies digitally, Lorena?
Yeah, a lot of people do. I know I do. Like it's like a backup to my physical one. So you get like one of those drives and just save it all off on a drive. Yeah. So you can get a DVD ripper, which I have. So you can use it, put the physical copy in your computer's drive, and it'll rip off a digital copy.
I have to talk to you about this ad nauseum because I have to talk to you about it. I got to have a conversation with you about this. So I'm glad you know. So that makes it a lot easier.
Okay. I'm happy to share. Yes, the Zero G toilet thing was the only intentional. It had to be. That's why I kept laughing. I'm like, yeah, I've actually seen a Zero G toilet.
Turn
A
it
low
on
spec
before you
Linux
start
laptop.
going.
Yes, you have to do that first.
Yeah. Uh,
SpaceX landings looks like the old Flash Gordon shorts to me.
they do because it lands on it. Like
It's crazy.
it is crazy. It is crazy. It's like, what did you just do?
Low spec Linux laptop. I had a VIC 20 with cassette drive. Wow. Whoa. That's definitely a relic. That's up there with I think the Apple II, I think. With the 5 1/4. Little Chef is a fan. I think the music is keeping his attention. The music in here is just so it's perfectly timed. Love the classic.
Yeah, I love this conference room.
I don't think I've seen one of these since I saw a replica of it at NASA. I was like, when is this room here? Since what, the 60s? Or like, yeah, actually, yeah, it is.
Jim Watari is talking about using computer cards, the punch cards, Lorena. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Man, key punch.
Wow.
I remember visiting a defense contractor when I was in high school, and they said, yeah, we used to make these. What are they? Punch cards. What? It's amazing how much our tech has progressed.
Mm-hmm.
486, the Pentium 486 was a hot thing to have when I was a teen. Might want to get physical and digital backup of this movie before someone wants to do a sensitivity edit. Oh, yeah.
So John Ware, when you get a physical backup, are you doing a DVD backup? See, I want to do a DVD backup and a digital backup.
You can do both. One is copying the DVD, making a DVD to DVD copy, and the other one is making a digital copy in MP4
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
format. So
Yeah.
actually, but they both are in MP4 format, but you want to burn that to a DVD. So it's like you'd make the copy, and
Mm-hmm.
then you would, like, say, put a blank disc into a drive that's writable, and you would burn that.
I remember I used to have like a DVD player that I could do stuff like this, but I don't think they make those anymore. I mean, you'd have to use a computer to do it now, right?
Yeah, you can just get you can get a DVD burner really cheap.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, yeah, you can get a burner really, really cheap. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I would do. Now you know why my parents would never call tech support. They call me, you know. You are 64 years young, Jim Watari.
I would have
You
never guessed that he was that old.
you guys, you're the one that I would have on my team that would tell me all the stuff that could possibly go wrong. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna note that. And when people would tell me, you can go ahead and do that, I'm like, no, so and so said I can't, because remember back in so and so when that happened, yeah, that same thing could happen again.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were the guys whose brains we picked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly where that is, Jim. When I worked in LA, I used to live in Encino.
He says,
I
yeah,
used to
that
lived
guy.
in Encino, worked in El Segundo. So yes, I
Ooh,
know that is at El Segundo. I'm like the
ooh,
Tribe Called Quest song. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, I'm that guy.
I love it. I love it.
I love this room. the space at the outfit that he has on, I'm trying to remember what movie does that remind me of?
A lot of the sci-fi films that we see today have suits that look just like this. So
Yeah.
it's a great design, and it's, really, really looks good. And
Hmm.
see no woman. I love it. I love
It's
it.
part of it from like the Gemini program,
Yes.
Gemini space program.
And they're, of course, they're eating, is it Pop Tarts? Or were Pop Tarts made for the space program, or was it
I know Tang was.
Pang? Okay.
I know Tang was, and dehydrated ice cream.
Hmm.
Rip it and rip it good. Yep. Din-din-din-din-din. Oh, you turned it down? Oh wow, DJ Abs. All you folks coming in here with all this awesome knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes, Encino woman. I lived in Encino. I did. It was a interesting place to live. Tell you about it. I worked and lived in El Segundo, 95 to 2015. Okay. Okay. I worked in El Segundo in 98 actually. Vinyl soy-based meat sandwiches. And you still drink Tang. Tang will never go out of style. Just go back and you just go on YouTube and look up the Tang commercials and the tie-in to the space program. I'm just amazed. It's like a plane, but it's on the moon.
Yes.
Knew anyone who worked at JT4? No, unfortunately, no. It's mostly Lockheed, Northrop, all those aeronautics companies that were around LAX. There's a reason why I call it LAX Airport. Yeah,
Oh boy.
I hated that airport. I was like, can I fly to Burbank, please? Coffee's hot. Yeah, kind of weird how you'd be able to pour that and zero G, but we hadn't been to the moon yet. So probably thought that the gravity on the moon was kind of akin to that on Earth. And it's never a good sign when something's beeping like that.
But the graphics are still understandable. I mean, even from a non-scientific point of view, there's a lot in
Hmm.
the graphic that's understandable, and I like that they could do that. Of course, now let's say in 2023, I know how they created the graphic, because when I was younger, I didn't understand how they created that graphic. But now that we know how to create a graphic like that, it still looks
Hmm.
cool. It looks like it's a legitimate graphic. It doesn't look fake. So, I have to give them credit for that. And at the time, that must have been hard to create, right, Lorena?
Very much so, considering the limited computing and the computing power that they had. So they had to use that with the practical effects.
Okay.
And that whole simplicity that you're talking about, that's why we use icons so much,
Okay.
because they're simple graphical representation. So they didn't have that much computing power like with their special effects budget. So it had to be simple and easy to understand. That's a very good point that you're making. The moon bus was flying suborbitally, so they had some weight aboard it. Yeah. That's why I was like, they're near, if they're near the moon, like how come there wasn't? Because when you see, well, of course, it was after the moon landing where they're walking on the moon, they're kind of bouncing up and down. It's kind of like it's slow, so there's some gravity, but not zero gravity.
And
Hal, the first sassy AI villain or villain. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. And there is like an element of I want that toy when you see like all of them walking out at the same time. You're like, I want my little figures of them. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
very funny that it makes you want to buy a toy or something that's like this so many years later.
It's like it gives this feeling like it's alive. It's not just a slab of rock. John Moore Jr. says, I have a small background in UX, UI. That simplistic interface is great design, even for today when you consider accessibility. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had to fight so much with developers about that concept, UX, UI, UX. Make it simple. We might have, no, because you don't understand what it is.
I mean, it is also very interesting, Lorena, that you and I grew up. We might have been the first generation of of technology, right? Pretty much everybody who's listening to this, it's especially people in their 60s. You know, you're like the first generation to understand that technology was going to become the norm, and so for us, it's very different. But for people who were watching this film in 1968, this was quite, you know, extraordinary and not very, you know, sort of like an everyday sense of I'm going to be using this all the time. For us, we understand it. But I think at the time, you know, looking at it upon retrospect, when you saw that, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is high tech, you know, like
Yes. Like, is this the future? Like, behold the home of the future, you know, like the Jetsons and everything. Like, are we really going to have that? Are we going to have flying cars and robot servants and things like that? It was very hard to picture that. It was, you know, something of fiction, not something that you thought would actually happen. You know, especially before the moon landing. So you're absolutely right. We're used to technology. Well, there's a reason they call it the bleeding edge of technology, but we're used to that. Like, we look at this movie and all we think about is the technology that we know. Ooh. In a way, I'm kind of glad they did that because we get the same sensory distortion that they're getting.
and you
Hey,
say you can buy,
Demogeny
hey, Demogeny.
says, hello, pretty ladies.
Thank you, Demogeny. I hope you're well.
Hello, Lord Commander. I hope you are doing well too.
And the other thing is someone had said you can buy the figures, but they're really expensive. Of course, you know, I can imagine. But there was one other comment. Where is it?
I have to laugh at this. At least you don't have to use a slide rule.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't even know what that was. And then when I finally saw one, because I had a professor say, at least you didn't have to use a slide rule for calculus. We're like, what's a slide rule? And he showed us what it is. And we were like, okay, I'm glad we have calculators to use instead of a slide rule. I think the last time I saw a slide rule was in the movie Apollo. I think it was Apollo 13. And I was laughing so hard. People couldn't. I'm like, why? I said they're using slide rules. It didn't have calculators.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Alan talks about moon landing deniers, and I'm like, I'm the opposite. I know there's something up there, Lorena. I know it. They got the whole space station and everything up there.
Can't believe TVs are what. Yeah, they were there. I've seen the rocks. We've even got stuff that's still up there because they didn't bring it. They didn't bring it back.
And this is one of those scenes that I love. Like, how could you not love this? He's like, he thinks he's Muhammad Ali or something. Like
running, you know.
Oh my god!
It's again, if you go to Mission Space over in Epcot, you see this. It's like, and there's even places to exercise while in zero G. Looks exactly like this.
Now there's a famous scene in this scene. It might have already happened where there's someone sitting down eating or something, and a person, you know, like it's rotating, and that person was strapped into a chair, Like they talk about how it was made. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I guess you would have to be strapped into a chair, but you just have to be calm about it,
Yeah. It's just like you have gravity, but you're not weightless. So it's kind of like a weird in between type of thing. We are doing great, Demaj and I hope you are doing very well. Hope that you are. And no, I didn't know. No, I didn't. I saw pictures of it.
This
So
is
I
the
knew what one was, but I was like, I'm just glad I have a darn calculator.
this is it. This is, you saw if someone was sitting down like eating, and this is the
Hmm.
part because I think it does rotate, and that
Yes.
person was strapped in. Although you can't tell, it doesn't look like they're strapped in. It just looks like
Hmm. This is
space.
a full size prop centrifuge that rotated.
Mhm.
Yeah. Also, something else about mission space. The orange mission, you're in a centrifuge with that. That's why you
Yeah.
get that zero G. And that's why we nickname it the vomit comet.
Yes. I've never been in it, but I would have loved to have tried that once.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. And yes, NASA does have something nicknamed the vomit comet
Mhm.
that they use to train astronauts.
The plane goes like this, right, Lorena?
Yep. Goes in that parabolic so they have like I think like 20 seconds of zero G, and that's why they nicknamed it the vomit comet. I'm like, oh, that is such a cool name. Yes, they did a lot with slide rules, DJ Aftershock. No disrespect whatsoever. We're just like, man, we're glad we have calculators. Almost a tenth of this movie's budget went to building the centrifuge. And John Moore Jr. says spinning set was used for Nolan's Inception.
Oh, really? Oh,
I
wow.
did not know that. That is so cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And these TV dinners, yep,
Mm-hmm.
that was the future. And he's looking at an iPad.
TV dinners.
Mhm. He's watching a YouTube video.
Yep. That's exactly that's exactly what he's doing.
Oh, they're watching the same thing. Okay, that's fine. They can watch the same thing.
That's so
But
funny.
he has vegetables. He has two vegetables. He has potatoes and meat.
Plus the creators of Texas Instrument. Yes. A TI, was it TI 180 or something like that? I remember a math class, they actually gave us those because I think that's when we were learning like trigonometry and a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah. They gave us those. And then I think like in college, the engineering calculator, I had to buy that one. It was like
Got
$100 or
the
something like that.
exponent. It's got the exponents and all those
Yes.
functions in it. Yeah.
All the stuff for formulas, and you don't have to calculate the logarithm and tell you what it was.
Now
Where's
your
the
phone.
brownie?
Now, yeah. Where is the brownie? Now your phone, like it's a normal calculator this way. If you turn it that way, like it has all the functions in it. But I had the
Mm-hmm.
scientific calculator too. It was solar powered, of course. But
Yeah, that was one of my favorite pieces of tech to have, the TI-83.
hmm, you needed it. You had to do all this stuff for class.
Mm-hmm. And how would I put this? I can neither confirm nor deny that. And that's all I can say right now.
Oh,
Yeah, I can
okay.
neither confirm nor deny.
I'm telling you, they got more stuff, and we're just not seeing it.
Oh yeah, they always got that stuff over there. Oh, DOD. Some days I miss working for y'all. How? So what would this be like? Siri's great grandfather?
That's not enough food for those men. That's not
hmm
enough food for a man.
hmm Wholesome DJ Aftershock, 100% correct. 100% correct in your assumption.
Mhm.
And his voice. You're so right. It's like an iPad.
Yeah. One of them is in a bathrobe.
Who? It's like, who would? It's amazing looking at this stuff now.
Yeah. And that's exactly, the what's so interesting about this is for us, living in that was our reality. So looking back at it, it doesn't look so odd. Like it seems right. And someone talked about the model of this ship. I can't remember how many feet it was, but they did these fantastic model shots, Lorena. I just love how this came out. It still looks amazing.
I love this. The beauty of practical effects. It's like it still reigns supreme. The best CGI is only if you can't tell that it's CGI. Like I tell people, Dune did that extremely well. You couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't real. I'm
Mhm.
sorry to hear that he passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Oh wow, Jim, you kept that? You still kept that for him? Yeah, I had to give mine up when I parted ways with Stark Industries, let's put it that way.
I love it.
I had to give it up and I was none too happy say, "Here, stay out of my business." Happy birthday. Hey, Real Way Nation Gaming Clips, good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you. We are watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. We're at 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 13 seconds into the film. Just enjoying the pacing of this and the aesthetic of it. It's so simple, but looks gorgeous.
Agreed. Yeah, monitors is so important. The importance of, let's say, video. I'll say video was incredibly important as it is now. And
hmm
we hear people talking about, well, what's the future of movie? What's the future of cinema? And that I think what they are watching shows that the importance is original content, like what they're watching there in the monitors.
hmm
Because they're not watching like, La Dolce Vita or shit like that. You know what I mean? Right, Lorena? They're not watching
no.
that. And I think the reason why they're not showing that is because they're trying to, oh, look, he's playing chess. First of all, that became the norm. Chess, and what was the other one? Was it, when you play with the cards, what is it called? Solitaire
Solitaire.
was on every computer under the sun.
Yes.
So this was like a staple. That was the Angry Birds for so long. Um,
hmm
and then you remember the years where they were like they had to remove chess and solitaire from computers because people in offices were playing it so much and they weren't working. Like it's it's really funny when you think about it.
You're two away from 430. All right, Real Nation, keep grinding. Good to
Yeah.
hear it.
I don't know whether I'm subscribed.
If I'm not, I need to be.
Real,
Real
real.
Wade Nation Gaming.
Okay, let me see if I can do this.
Chess
YOUTB.
game. Wow. Yeah, one of the things that you learn as a computer programmer is how to program games like chess, checkers, my personal favorites, poker and blackjack.
Yes, exactly. What is it called? Real Wade Nation gaming
Hmm.
clips. Real Wade Nation gaming clips. Let's go. Subscribe. Done. Okay.
Hmm.
429. It says you have 429 real. I play game reason. I do this for a place where people can escape from their real life problems. Mainly, I'm a non-family. Okay. Gotcha. Real
All
Nation
right.
clips.
To
I
drop me that
subscribe.
link and I can
Oh, yes.
subscribe to them.
Let me do that.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Oh, yeah, I get you, DJ Aftershock.
I have to put it in the
Yeah.
private chat. Okay, Lorena?
Okay.
Because I don't think I can drop it into the regular one because I didn't have it there. So maybe you put it in the chat or something. So I
I've heard
subscribed.
that Al makes a mistake in the game, which was a hint he was malfunctioning. Since I suck at chess, I have no idea if that's true. See, I don't even know how to play chess. It's been a long time since I've had to program it.
But I thought I have to ask this question because there are chess masters who have chess masters, obviously, who have defeated computers in chess.
Yes, Big Blue, which is notorious, the one from the IBM computer.
Mm-hmm. And the computers were not malfunctioning. But I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe in this film, Lorena, that this is supposed to be something that's understood. That if he could beat Hal, then there was something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Look at his face. Don't you love this man's face? Hal is picking up all sorts of, and this is the other thing. This is the other thing. For the normal viewer, meaning not everybody who's here, because we all know this movie very well. But for the
Mm-hmm.
normal viewer who's seen this film, they didn't understand that Hal is measuring his blood pressure, measuring his heart rate, measuring his response rate. You know, Hal can tell if this man is lying or not. Like it's that sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Because there's certain responses that you have when you're lying and when you're telling the truth. And the interesting thing when they're saying about how monitoring all of that, when the astronauts were in space, mission control would monitor all of that, their vitals. So they will be able to tell if they were under distress, or not. Same concept like with Mother in Alien.
I'm eating potato salad since you asked. And my thing that I've never been able to understand, I understand what's happening, but I don't understand how signals are sent. In other words, I know what you can do, but I don't understand how you can send a signal. If someone were to say, hey, write this down and show how you can send a signal from the Earth to a spaceship that's on the moon, I couldn't tell you how they're doing that. In fact, I'm flabbergasted they can do it because in my mind, I'm still thinking like radio. You know what I mean? Like there's a tower, right? There's a tower, it sends out signals, and that's it. That's all you can do. But we know that it's possible to do more than that. There are satellites in space. I still am quite
Mhm.
surprised by what they're capable of doing. And the thing that always gets me is even though I know that, like in the Apollo 13 mission where they were able to do everything under I think it was 9 volts or something like that, I still am
Mhm.
like, no, that's not possible. Like in my mind, I'm like, no, it's not. Even though you could show me like on a board and say, no, it is possible.
Mhm.
If you do this action first, that's one. And then you do this one, it's another. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. That's not going to work. So I'm trying to figure out why I have decided myself that it's impossible when I see it's perfectly true. I guess it feels so miraculous that it's just, I don't want to accept it. It's weird.
Kind of like I don't want to say like a leap of logic. It's kind of like how It's like I know how it works, but I kind of want that mystery of not knowing, how it works, because it kinda seems like magic.
And this scene where he goes through that tunnel, like it was made that way to look. I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be mimicking, Lorraine, but it does feel like some kind of journey you're going through. It has this mesmerizing feeling to it.
Mhm. And this whole corridor feels like that one part in Space Mountain, honestly. It almost feels like
Wow.
the same exact, thing, that corridor that he was going down.
Mhm.
Real Wade Nation, this is actually on HBO Max for streaming. You can rent it off of or buy it off of, Apple TV or Amazon or Vudu or, Redbox. And PJ from Orville Nation, hello, how the heck have you been? Haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing all right. Good to see you. Let's see. And Alan is saying outside Earth's atmosphere, there's nothing to disrupt a radio signal.
Okay.
Mhm. The tunnel scene was imitated in Batman versus Superman with Lex Luthor. I did not like that Lex Luthor. I'm sorry, I did not like Jesse Eisenberg. Ah! This is kind of creepy to like hear his breathing.
Mm-hmm. Now that's the scene you see a lot. This picture of the
Mhm.
ship. That's sort of like a very popular photo of the ship.
It just hit me. The outside of that kind of looked like the Death Star.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
It does. Even the little circly part that looks like a dish or something on it.
You hear breathing because there's no sound in space. Yeah, there aren't air particles to transmit sound, which is why they have to have uh,
Headphones and
yeah, headphones and
communication.
communicators that way, radio communicators that way. Yeah, that's no moon.
We just saw something, that 3 dish design. We just saw something like that in Andor.
Mhm.
It was actually, I don't remember who was behind the design, but it was a design that was made for Star Wars ages ago, probably inspired from this film. And they had never used it, and they used it in the Andor series, and it looks very
Mhm.
similar to what we just saw. That's another advantage we have, Lorena, is after so many years, let's say 20 years of watching science fiction films and seeing the influence, like even a shot as simple as this looks incredibly real. This is real.
Totally. It looks amazing.
We're in an era where you can go to nasa.com and watch
Mhm.
the spacewalks. You know how they televise them, or it's not televised, but they'll show them and they'll say, this afternoon, there's going to be a spacewalk at 0900 hours or whatever,
Mhm.
You can watch it. It's like they're out there for like 8 hours. God bless them. It looks like this, except they're more tethered. That's the one thing that I'm going to say.
Yeah, 'cause they're tethered. There's one where they did have the but they did have jetpacks. Yeah, but usually they are. They're
Yeah.
like tethered to it where they're doing the spacewalk and you get to see them, and the bay doors open up, the shuttle, and
I even saw one recently. I watched it with my mom. I said, "Do you want to watch? Do you mind if I watch this spacewalk?" She says, "Sure, let's watch it." And it was an astronaut who did not speak English, which is, I guess, more common than I thought. And there was another astronaut who was there to translate Lorena. She spent 8 hours translating to him out.
wow.
I'd never seen this before. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And she of course, is an expert in languages. And she was constantly
Mhm.
like, when she couldn't translate, she'd say unintelligible, unintelligible. It's like you could hear a computer saying unintelligible, like, but it was human. And it was a lot of work. They were making repairs, of course, installing something.
Mhm.
And then they were done for the day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is your day at work? Man, that's tough. You were outside in space.
Yes.
That was your day at work. My goodness.
And those buttons or sizes are so realistic because they have to be big enough because the astronauts have on, like they have on all those layers of clothing to protect them,
Mhm.
also from radiation as well. So the button can't be so small that they can't like push it.
Mhm.
So that is very interesting seeing that they went and did that. The reason why I keep bringing up Gemini and Apollo was if you go to the NASA Visitor Center and you go there, you can see the stuff from like in from the suits and the landing outfits from Mercury, Apollo, and Gemini projects.
And what state is this? Is this in, Lorena?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What state is it in?
Which one?
The Gemini Landing Center.
I haven't been there in a couple of years.
Okay. Okay.
So it was very I hear it's now got NASA Kennedy Space Center is now like this big, huge refurbed thing. It used to kind of just be kind of cobbled together. And I think when I left, they had taken one of the Jupiter, one of the is it Jupiter? No, excuse me. Sorry, wrong pew. Saturn V rockets, which are huge. Okay. And it kind of been out in a rocket garden and looked dirty and old and stuff like that. Well, they started building a new visitor center and it actually like blasted the thing. It was bright white and they were taking it over. I'm like, what the heck is that? They said, oh, it's a Saturn V rocket.
And you were
You
like,
mean the one that was out there in the garden and looked like crap? And they said, yeah, they were taking it. They had it like on some really long flatbed tractor trailer and building a new visitor center. So I haven't been there yet. I
mhm.
need to go and visit. But back in the day when they had it, they showed you like how the space program progressed from the Mercury mission, which is just one man. Then the second one, which is Gemini, which was working together in space, and then Apollo, which was like the mission to go to the moon. So
Okay.
you could see like the moon rocks, you could see their landing, the landing gear and everything. It's really cool.
It sounds amazing. There are a few artifacts like that. Let's say I call them artifacts in New York and certain places. I know we have Flushing Meadow. In Flushing Meadow and Queens, we have some rockets there, and they are
Mhm.
big. And I can't remember where else we have stuff, but um, yeah, it's interesting to see these things. We're talking stuff that's like maybe 50 or 60 years old now at this point, right? So it's potato salad. Sorry.
It's okay. I just heard him talking about twin computers, so that is very interesting. Again, in the space shuttle, there's 5 IBM computers, and they all go in a voting system, and the majority vote wins. So it's interesting how they have 2 of them voting, and there isn't anything to break that tie, unless I guess Hal is the one that breaks the tie. But I find that very interesting. Yes. Hal's basically saying, it's y'all fault. How dare you question?
Can you get emotional? This is something that's interesting. Can you get emotional towards a computer? You know what I mean? Like I know this is no ordinary computer, but I don't know.
Yeah, Hal is starting to feel Skynet-ish. Wasn't that was always the pop culture joke? Hal saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do that."
Mhm. It was. My mother hated that. She was like, the computer was so terrible. And I'm like, and I wondered if this gave, which may not be true, but I wondered if it gave a lot of people in that generation a negative impression of computers.
It may have, because people really, the prevailing attitude, I'll say, aside from the nerds, were that computers were something to not be trusted. Um, how can a computer do a better job at mathematics and logic than a human being? It's like you're going to take that control away and put it with a machine. It's just like a lot of people are like, how can you, trust a computer? Like when banks started getting computerized, people were just like, the computer screwed this up and screwed that up, and I can't yell at it, and whatever. There was a lot more distrust then than there kind of is now, because like you were saying earlier, this was like an era in time where all this new technology, people didn't picture it happening. And it was kind of like a takeover, especially with the space program, because they were just doing stuff, out of the ordinary. They had smart people doing calculations, but they needed to be able to do it faster. So that's why they brought computers in, and then computers were starting to take over people's jobs, and yeah,
It's interesting. Um,
all that.
and of course, this disobedient computer does remind me of let's say, the computer role in Aliens with Mother.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
Mother was just, they were not in charge of that ship. Mother had commands from somewhere else, from the company.
Mhm.
And of course, all that time they thought they were in charge, and it turns out that Mother was manipulating them. So,
Mhm. The whole time. And yes, I do. I agree that that is, their analog. I think the issue is excessive dependency on computers.
oh, okay, okay, I didn't
And
know.
that our society has kind of evolved to be that way, where we really are dependent on them. But one of the things that I will say, I'm kind of glad for that healthy skepticism. Um, when I was learning computer programming and learning how to be, an engineer, I would have professors that were like, "Well, how do you know it's right? You need to be able to check the answer."
Hmm.
And I was like, "What? The calculator give me the answer." It said, "What if you hit the wrong number?
Hmm. You have
How
to
do you
check.
know?" Like, really? Like, yeah, you have to check. You can't. The computer's a tool. You can't expect for it to do your job for you and like rely on it. Like even now, sometimes I'm just like, it's simple math. I really feel stupid for using the calculator, but dang it. After all the math I've done, shoot, I'm gonna use the calculator.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And the way that the textbooks are now, they're assuming you're using a calculator. They don't want you to do long math or anything like that. That's fallen out of style. But
Mhm.
I've had friends who took statistics And, you know, statistics is like maybe one of the biggest introductions of having to use, you know, do everything on paper and use the formulas. Now whole departments have statistics departments. They don't want you touching the statistics. Let the statistics branch handle it. But for so long, you had to do that stuff yourself. And I was like, it's a total waste of energy. You should have had a statistics department all along doing that. And if they make a mistake, that's different. But, you know, I don't think researchers should have been burdened with having to do their own statistics when looking at huge sample sets. Like, it's ridiculous, you know. And I'm not talking about using a computer program. I'm talking about like on sheets of paper. It's like, oh, now you have to manually enter the stuff. I'm like, no, get a company to enter it in and let them do the math or crunch the numbers. You shouldn't be focusing on that because as a researcher, not every researcher is an expert in that. So, you know, you're forcing yourself to do or to go into a field that you're not an expert in. And then if you make a mistake, you know, that's why a lot of times I've seen people with, you know, who are looking in certain textbooks for a long time with some professors. They're like, oh, there's a mistake in it. I'm like, well, why is there a mistake in it? It's because that professor wrote it and they're not a statistician. So they published something they thought was correct. And then it wasn't until somebody else who came along who knows statistics says, oh, by the way, that book that you printed, the one that you're teaching all your students out of, it's incorrect, but they're not going to reprint it. So it's a very long-winded way of saying that, isn't it?
But very interesting. Very interesting nonetheless. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We're on all kinds of tangents when it comes to this film, but there's so many questions about, you know, technology and the use of technology and kind of like how computers and the future were portrayed in, you know, 1968 as opposed to what we know, you know, now. There's some things that haven't changed and some things, you know, that have. And Chef Nation says intermission means get up, pee, refresh your drink, smash the like button. Yeah, get up, stretch, smash that button, smash that button. And the idea here is Hal was programmed to lip read if he lost all his audio inputs. Bowman and Poole forgot that. Oops.
Oopsie.
Maybe they should have wrote that down.
Goodness gracious.
I've read the trivia for decades. Oh, well, I'm loving the trivia you guys are saying about this film. There's a reason that this film is such a science fiction classic.
Exactly. I mean, it really has had such a profound influence over everything, honestly. I mean, there's very few science fiction films that have not been influenced by it. And there are very few, maybe, let's say, stories that have been written that haven't been influenced by this. But it's just amazing what they did with it. And you can tell the work that was put into it. You can tell.
Yes, you have. And I swear that looks like the outside of it. That does. It looks like the Imperial Star Cruiser.
It sure does. It sure does.
See, is it 3 in the... Oh, okay. 2. Even from the tail, it does. Wow. And plus, these effects look so good. They're timeless with how they look like. Hello, Planet Killer. This movie's greatness exceeds it just being called a classic, but it's misunderstood by general audiences. Okay. However, it does have one of the greatest sequels of all time in 2010 with Roy Scheider. What's going to happen? Something wonderful. I think that's how the quote went with that one. But yeah, classic doesn't quite seem to really encapsulate this film, especially considering it's a Kubrick film.
Yes. You can't abbreviate it into a meaningful definition.
Mhm.
It's
John Mar Oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
go ahead, my dear. Go ahead.
It's one of those core films that just completely changed, what even cinema people who work in cinema feel or may have been possible in film.
Mhm.
Because this is, even looking at this now, trying to achieve this now is difficult. This is not easy. This is not easy.
Mm-mm. And John Moore Jr. says, "Does anyone think the breathing inspired Darth Vader's wheezing?"
Yes. Excuse me. Yes,
Very well might have. I would have to agree with you on that.
it, there's so much in here that inspired it, and that part where he's floating in space and he's unfortunately killed. You just can imagine what's going through his mind right now as he's coming back into the ship. Just
Just man, retro. How will I dream, Chandra? I don't know. And Gary Lockwood has left the building. Oh, man. Hiya, ladies. Sorry could not get a copy of this. Even went to a DVD store miles away. Enjoy. Oh, Anonymous, I'm sorry you couldn't get
Mhm.
that copy. Glad you're here, though. Caution explosive bolts?
Yeah, it means that means that if you want to, you know what it is, because you know that you can't remove bolts easily. So it has
Mm,
like power. It's like power steering for a bolt removal.
okay.
But you don't want to be like, you don't want to have your hand on it, your face near it. It's like a hatch that can pop open.
Mm, gotcha.
I think that's what it means. Maybe the chat can let us know if that's true. You don't want to be trapped inside. I mean, obviously, I can't help but refer to the poor people who were trapped inside of a submersible. They were bolted in.
Okay, I gotcha.
These little pod things are great. They're cool.
They remind me of those like deep sea, um, I keep calling them pods,
Mhm.
but ones with the little motors and they kind of, film around on them with like the extendable arms so they can get stuff and clip things.
Absolutely.
Alan says, Lorena Creel, I call this movie visually narrated. The grip shoes from earlier and the explosive bolts here. You see what you need to know without being told. And that's something that's lacking from a lot of entertainment today. You
Mhm.
know, it used to be that you would see things or you would be shown rather than told.
Exactly.
And this is actually very, very accurate because there's nothing to stop you because you're in zero G. You can rotate infinitely. Oh, you used to have a copy? Anonymous? Oh man. pod might have inspired Vader's TIE Advanced X1 fighter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can see that now. Show don't tell. Who would have ever thought that would work? That could work. He sees him, right?
He does.
That is so, whew, that's just so eerie.
It is. Poor fellow.
And he's just tumbling.
And the tumbling shot looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. It captures the, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna stop. I'm never gonna stop spinning around. Okay, go get your boy. There you go. This makes me want to watch Clockwork Orange after this. I have never seen Clockwork Orange.
You got to watch it. It's a fantastic film.
I've heard about it. I've never seen it. I'm watching you.
You see the vital signs on the side.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to focus in on that. Did they have stuff like that in the 60s in hospitals?
Which one's like cryo?
The vitals that we're seeing here.
Um, that is an excellent question.
Someone will know. Someone in this stream must know.
Yeah. Computer malfunction. Cardio.
It's so awful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You just kill them?
Mm-hmm.
And people wonder why I don't, anytime you see some kind of cryogenic chamber, don't trust it. Don't freaking trust it. Computer malfunction my ass. Remember, why did mother wake us up from hypersleep way before we were supposed to?
Mm-hmm.
This visual is so scary. Central nervous system, everything is just flatlined. Dang. Alan says, my ex-wife and RN might know. I have no idea if they had this tech in the 60s.
Yeah. We take it for granted now that you go to the hospital, it's got all those vitals
Mm-hmm.
read, but
When the pod bay doors, please, Hal. I'm sorry. I can't do that. Space Tape said Murderbot 2001.
mm-hmm.
I think Hal is the original Murderbot, right?
Yes.
Hal said, I'm a little busy killing people right now. Oh, well, I'm done now. I guess we can talk. So creepy after what it's done. Sorry, Dave. Great, I can't do that. Hmm. Yeah, Hal got jokes. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. Guess I'll answer.
Open the doors.
Hal just hung up on you, didn't he?
Yeah, he's ghosting you now, and he's literally right next to you.
He's like, this daggone computer. That's what I will be calling Hal some names. Every name in the book. It's kind of like, what is he going to do? Been ghosted by Hal. Have you tried unplugging Hal, then plugging him back in?
Mm-hmm.
Nice IT crowd joke in there. It's so messed up because he's like carrying his buddy, with a little pod like that. You don't know if dude's like alive or dead. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, did he mean to do that? Anonymous says we all need a Hal from time to time just to clear the friends list. Had not thought about it that way. So you just left your boy out there? Let's see. Alan says the final Arthur C. Clarke sequel novel to this, 3001, involves Poole's body being found and reanimated.
Oh my gosh.
Hmm. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Interesting and very creepy at the same time. And yes, I would like to see that. Thank you very much. Hello, Emily Kruger. Hello. Welcome to my chat. Since this movie is one of my all time favorites. Well, this is a movie I'm so glad I'm finally getting a chance to watch again after not seeing it for years. And I already know I need to sucker in 4K. Okay, come on. You can pick that lock. Come on. Don't let this computer beat you. It's purposely making us wait to see what he does. Everything moves so slow. It looks so weird. Is he going to back it in? I feel like I should be hearing beep, beep, beep.
When you're old school, you look back and you're like, oh, wait a minute, we got a camera. I almost
Yeah.
I like to check anyway. It's like
The combination is 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, yeah, I think I got this now. He's like, what?
what did it say? Caution radio. Did it say radio something? What did it say? Caution.
To say radiation?
Did it? It said something. It said caution.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Explosive bolts.
Hal can't control everything, but he has control over a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much oxygen there is in the room and like important stuff.
Yeah, Hal does look kind of pissed. Funny how we can kind of, well, answer me this, and maybe I'm seeing things. It seems like Hal's little red eye, the illumination can seem a little different. Like bright or get dim or get warmer if he's not happy.
I
Maybe
can't
I'm just seeing
tell.
things. I don't know. That
I
kind of
can't
seems
tell.
like it's me.
I wasn't looking to see those differences, so I don't know.
Or maybe it's just the cinematography.
So he's walking around with a full spacesuit inside the station
Mm-hmm.
because Hal can turn off life support at any time.
Yes.
But I guess there's no remote control for the spacesuit.
And that's where you tried to tease them before. It's like, you can't do that without your helmet. Oh, got a helmet. Okay.
I can see you're really upset about this.
Really?
That is not an experiment I'd want to try.
Mm-mm. It's like, I just want you to shut up. Makes me
So
wonder, what do they mean by stress pill? This is the late 60s.
is this like a computer chip room where he has to remove chips and it can cause Hal to not be in control anymore or something?
That's a good point.
Like in Star Trek, they do stuff like this to reprogram stuff, right? They remove chips.
Is it the oh gosh, it's not dilithium crystal.
Mm-mm.
It's something else. The chips that they would put in.
Yeah, you know the ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hal got game, but overplayed his hand.
Oh,
Stop,
okay.
Dave.
They're holographic memory chips.
Will you stop, Dave? Holographic. Okay. Okay.
They look like cassette tapes, but they're holographic memory chips.
I'm afraid.
'Cause that looks like a cassette. That looks like an ejector. You know, you press eject and your cassette tape comes out, and then
Mm-hmm. Memory terminal, logic terminal. Yeah, with all the tapes coming. Oh, so he can't recall stuff.
I'd have to destroy the
And
tapes, the cassettes, so I wouldn't keep them on the ship.
mm-hmm. And now he can't reason. Yes, Emily Kruger, they are amazing. Practical, the set designs, the practical effects, it's beautiful. And this shutdown sequence is something else. Yes. Because he no longer has control. He doesn't know what's going on, can't remember things.
It's a shame he killed the other people on ship. That's nuts.
He basically rebooted it.
I would have removed those chips that gave him control. I wouldn't have allowed him to stay in control, but that's me.
I wouldn't. Mm.
Because we don't know if this operation will work. I mean,
It's sad. Hal was correct earlier. Ultimately, the error was from humans.
yeah, and nobody's perfect. They're going to make errors. So
Hmm.
I mean, nobody's perfect. They're human and they're going to make errors.
Hmm.
I don't know if I said that. I don't know if I said that.
That's what happened with the Hubble Space Telescope. Somebody made a wrong calculation and the sucker was blurry.
Mm-hmm.
This is heartbreaking.
On a bicycle built for two.
Hmm. Exactly, John Ware Jr. That change in vocal pitch is what really gets you. What? What?
It's a secret message.
Oh, dang it. There's always this thing in there.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have feelings for Hal?
It's sad. It's sad. Do what? No, he wound up killing people. And it's funny how there always seems to be this classified underlying mission. Like with Alien, they finally got Mother to confess that the real directive wasn't to help, some colonists. It was to capture that alien and bring it back alive. And the whole crew was expendable.
Yes.
And then Dave probably thought, yeah, exactly. What the hell? And here we are with the vocalization again.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. I keep thinking I'm going to see Alderaan. And there it is. Had to be done, but wasn't his fault. Human conflicting orders drove him mad. These images of Jupiter and its moons were made at least a decade before Voyager's transmitted close up photos.
Oh,
Crazy, isn't it?
yeah, that is amazing. So then it was from a telescope and not from space, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. A terrestrial telescope. It's not a terrestrial telescope. It is a telescope located on the surface of the Earth.
Yes.
But I have to be specific.
Yes. So you're talking like NASA's telescope, Griffith Observatory.
Yes.
Franklin Institute, the ones with the huge boom, the rooms opens up and it's this big, huge telescope.
I've never been to the Griffith Observatory. I always wanted to go.
I've seen it. I've never gotten a chance to go in there. But with going to the Franklin Institute, granted, it's not as big as the one in the Griffith Observatory, but I did get to see the surface of the sun in retrospect. Yeah, it was really cool.
That sounds amazing.
That was super cool. Be able to see that. And you had, your telescopes on Earth, terrestrial telescopes. Then you had Voyager, whose satellite was actually doing like a flyby of all the planets. And then you had the Hubble Space Telescope. Once they got that optical thing fixed, which was an error, then they were able to take shots from the telescope that was actually orbiting the Earth so they could point it out that way.
Mm.
He's like that. Hal was like that boy or girlfriend that gets caught cheating, then begs to stay in the house. That's no moon. That's a monolith.
Yeah, that's a beautiful shot too.
What did Princess Leia's ship look like?
I don't remember.
I'm drawing a blank. For some reason, I don't know. For some reason, that made me think about it. This shot is incredible.
Yeah, I love this sequence. I love this sequence.
This looks so cool. Wow.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes, I thought about this exactly, an unexpected fire, kinda like Spock entering V'ger last week, just
Mhm.
saying. And that was in '79. So interesting, 10 years later, to kinda mimic that. I wanna see this in 3D. This is so cool. This would blow my mind in 3D. Hey, Zachariah 315, good to see you, good to see you. And John Ware Jr. says, "The controls reflecting in the helmet visor, Tony Stark, Iron Man." Yep, I thought about that too. It's so weird with the building music.
I don't know if that's supposed to be you're passing by stars so fast and galaxies so fast that it's like a
Hmm.
redshift look, a redshift. If you could visually see, right? Redshift is visual. Maybe that's what this is. I don't know. Does anybody know if this is redshift or not?
I just know it's
Or you're passing by stars so fast that it looks like a line, like they're
mhm,
as you are going so fast and passing so many stars.
mhm,
And I'm not sure, but
and going like, probably, faster than the speed of light. Sensory overload. I've only seen this movie once. It's been a long time since you've seen it. Likewise. Wow. In the novel, Bowman was passing through what Clark called a Stargate. This was before the movie of the same name came out.
hmm.
Oh, that sounds like a solar flare.
It does.
And what is this? No joke, part of it kind of feels like an acid trip.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Just from there seems to be that kind of psychedelic aesthetic in like movies from the late 60s, early 70s. It's just really wild. John Ware Jr. says this definitely inspired Interstellar from Nolan.
Hmm.
And if this is how they say hi, I fear multi-syllable word. And Emily Kruger says it was the 60s. Exactly. Exactly. It was the 60s.
But this looks a little different. Some of the patterns. Are you recognizing patterns as you're looking at some of this, Lorena, as well?
Yes. Tell me you dropped acid without telling me. I'd be so high for the visuals. They are just the craziest visuals. You can't stop looking um, at them. It's like you see what they are and kind of wondering what shape they're gonna turn into. some of this looks like they shot a lava lamp.
Maybe they did.
You never know. Kubrick probably he might have gotten the idea from that. Like, I wonder if I can shoot a movie with this kind of these kind of effects. And it's like he's trying to take in all of this information. Why does that kind of look like they're trying to communicate? It's just this shot is crazy.
Yeah,
And Emily Kruger, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my dear.
No, go ahead. Emily Kruger is.
Says, I learned that some of the shots for this scene was used with different chemicals mixed together for the film. That would make sense. First, we took chemistry, certain some chemicals you mix together or elements that you mix together can, give different colors. That looks like a film negative. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's called like exposure, right?
And it's called a what?
Negative exposure? Is it?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's called negative exposure. And Captain Vader, hello. I don't think I've seen you on my channel here before, so welcome. With that light show, cue the Doctor Who theme song. Ooh. You got a point there. It's like wild. It's just like, where did he go? Where did he end up?
He's almost there.
As I understand it, many hippies, for lack of a better name, started to go see this movie for this part while using substances.
Oh.
Before that, this film had lackluster viewing. After that, more people started checking out this film, and the rest is history. I could see that.
I could see it, but I didn't know about it. I never heard of it before. I didn't know that affected its ratings.
Yeah, we could only guess just from, it just seems like from the 60s, it seems to have these psychedelic parts in there with crazy colors and patterns and stuff. This is insane. It's almost like, I think this is a negative exposure. The other one kind of looked like metal. That looks like thermographic. Are we there yet?
Yeah, really.
Are we there yet?
We have to get there soon because the credits, I think, are like 10 minutes on this film. So it's only 7 minutes to get there.
I think we've probably seen every single color on the spectrum.
True.
Considering for most of the movies, you saw like this, like whites and blacks and reds and yellows, very 60s, mod aesthetic. And now, man, we've seen every darn color. And everything. Yeah, that's why they keep like focusing on his eyes. And his pupils are all super dilated. Where is this? I think his brain melted. Because he just looks really traumatized. Why is he in like a 18th century? Is this one of those things where the aliens try to take a form that you can relate to in order to communicate with you? That's me the night before. The novel and the Lost Worlds explain what this is about. And yes, I love the set design as well. I was being facetious, but in a way, how many other science fiction movies have we seen where, in order to better communicate with the humans, it'll take a form that the humans understand?
Yeah, it does happen. And you can see
Yeah.
he's visibly older here.
Yes. And that is a very cool effect. It's like, how long has he been traveling through space? Yes, and non-linear time happening too. Yeah, it's like it's got like the light floor, like the 60s floor, but that monochromatic color palette going on. It's very I don't know what to call it. Out of all time periods, is this the time periods, like, say, analogous to the music we see in the movie?
Um,
Maybe? I love this shot. They don't show everything. It's just like you're walking the way that Bowman is to slowly reveal this person. Alan says, I think in the book, The Making of 2001, Bowman was originally going to wander around and find the monolith. Then Kubrick thought of him finding, then becoming older versions of himself.
that's true.
That's kind of twisted. Think about that.
It's not over yet. I don't think.
Yeah, we've got some time. So the question is, why would he be looking at older versions of who he is?
He is actually getting older.
He's like, I remember that. Well, so now he's like on his deathbed now.
Mhm. Yes.
Hmm. Okay, I remember that image. Yep, space baby. And Ellen's says, quick version, the man apes encountered the monolith and began to evolve. Because Bowman already was an evolved being, he became the Star Child.
It's another evolutionary step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember this. Because in the poster for 2010, didn't they show the Star Child in the poster for that, I think?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
In the novel, Bowman destroyed the orbiting nuclear satellites after returning to Earth. I think Kubrick was afraid it would look like the end of Doctor Strangelove, so they didn't show it. Well, I have to say, I enjoyed watching that. It's strange seeing, but strange in a good way, seeing a film that you don't really remember seeing because it's been years since you've seen it. But when you see it, it seems like every single science fiction movie that you love goes back and borrows from that. So I really do love this. I love this weirdo sci-fi film. It's allowed to be weird because one, it's Kubrick, and two, it tells a story in a different way. It shows us a lot and forces us to slow down and kind of take it in. What were your thoughts on the film?
I think it's a science fiction depiction of what evolution would be like, you know, or an interpretation of what evolution would be like. Of course, we haven't had the last part yet, but I think
Hmm.
that's what it is. If you had to show what evolution is from a sci-fi point of view, this is what it would be like. Um, so that's what I think of it. And of course, it's a classic. Everybody loves this film. I don't know anybody who dislikes this film. It really is so beautifully done, and it must have taken so long and so much energy to make this look perfect. It looks perfect. Um, it's
Yeah.
perfect.
It really is. The practical effects, the dialogue, or I'll say even lack of dialogue, that's very necessary in order to get us engrossed in what's truly going on, and just how many pop culture references have been made with respect to this movie. Like even today, when you hear, the music, and it's like, yeah, that's the monolith scene, and with the apes and everything, you hear that. Um, Even with the classical music pieces, it's like, yeah, I remember that. That's actually from the film. Emily Kruger says, I find it interesting that in the film, the only time you see the surface of the earth with the apes is in the beginning.
Yeah, because it's showing evolutionary steps.
Cool.
So it's supposed to be profound evolutionary steps that reflect evolutionary steps of greater understanding that are so um, profound that it causes a leap in the evolutionary let's say in the evolutionary I'm trying to think of this timeline of a species. So it's a significant leap in the evolutionary timeline. And those, I guess, space travel is considered, it wasn't one of them, but the next leap would occur after we discover something. I guess it could be technology based, right, Lorena? Because as soon as he started to do this faster than light travel, then he was able to follow the obelisk. I don't even know if he was really following the obelisk, but he seemed to get a destination after being able to travel faster than light, because I don't think those astronauts were traveling faster than light before that.
No, they
Oh,
were
power.
not, because you could see they were kind of tumbling around and kind of stumbling, and then once Bowman got that close, you could even tell just with the changes in like the graphics that were shown, the landscapes that were shown. I say landscapes, I'll put that in quotes. You could tell he was going through some kind of dimension way faster, because you keep like, and I love how Kubrick does this. You keep doing these cut scenes back to where his eyes are completely dilated and like trying to take all this stuff in, and it's like sensory overload.
It was sensory overload. And like I said, like you and I were discussing, Lorena, the notion of looking at this film and thinking about space travel and technology from our point of view, for a generation that grew up with space travel and technology, that part doesn't feel, I mean, it's still incredible, but for the generation that watched it in 1960, it was spectacular. I think, what is the next step?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. I mean, we still haven't hit the faster than light, but that doesn't seem like we won't. It seems like, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to faster than light. And then what will we discover at that point? Will we change when we go to light speed? Will something happen to us once we can do that?
Mm-hmm.
In Star Trek First Contact, they waited for that inventor to have warp speed, and that's when the Vulcans reached out to humans.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, they weren't going to reach out to humans because they didn't have warp technology yet. So will it take something like warp technology to change things? Will it take something like faster than light speed for us to have another evolutionary step? Because obviously, I think that there are certain things in our history that changed the projection of
Mm-hmm.
our evolution. And obviously smartphones. I'm trying to think of another one that happened that changed things, but certainly not relying on landline phones anymore, being able to query things very, very quickly, libraries being, at your disposal at any time.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely has changed our evolution and how we think about things and approach things. And It's very, very different now, compared to when this film was first made.
Mm-hmm.
So my argument has always been that I guess around 2001 and then 2009, we had two major things happen. In 2001, I'm not going to say what it is, but in 2009, we had a major thing happen where everybody's now carrying around a cell phone and a smartphone, and it changed technology and what we were able to do dramatically. Do I think that social media is an evolutionary thing? No. But I think that communication wise, it's fantastic. But I don't think it had as much of an impact as smartphones and portable computers and things. I think those things, that type of tech, has really revolutionized everything. But what's next? I mean, is it finding a limitless source of power or an incredible storage source that, the limitations, computer chips that we can just pile millions upon millions of different circuitries on it without taking up extra space? Like, what is that next step? Is it faster than light technology, like we saw in this? And where is the obelisk?
Yeah, where is it? Or is the obelisk in your phone, as Chris Gore kind of alluded to? But he makes an extremely great point when it comes to that. This black piece of glass, which has caused us to change how we do things. I mean, I'll say, like, before that, you had the actual, the telephone. That was revolutionary. And the next step in the evolution of that, of course, was the smartphone, where you could get the internet and make phone calls, usually, if it was working, in the palm of your hand. You don't have to go sit at a computer to do it. You have it in your hand. Different way of computing things, instead of having to look at, lines or browser, you have these icons, iOS, you wind up using that a little differently. But it's interesting how that builds, I would say, to, like, say with Generation X, and how Generation X learned. There were so many things on television, so many different inputs. That generation had to learn how to ingest large amounts of information and handle that and translate that out. So they got used to doing that. And then that got passed, that got passed on. I remember only having like one computer, at school. Now at work, I have two. In the studio, I have three, and know exactly what's going on, on all of those. So it's going to be amazing to find out what's the next. Is it evolution, or are we going to, regress a little bit? But it's very interesting. What is the next step? And I agree with you. It seems like this is exactly what this movie was like. What's the next thing? And this was before the lunar landing happened.
Yes, and you can see the great expectations for space travel and the focus on that. It didn't have to be space travel. It could have been something else. It could have been deep sea exploration that they used to show a change, right? Somebody goes into the ocean and discovers something remarkable, and that could have been the next stage of evolution. So it is very interesting. Could it be an advance in health? Lorena, what difference would it make if our lifespans went from 75 years to 175 years?
That is interesting. What would that do with respect to resources? What would that do, with the makeup of the planet? What would that do to, quote unquote, Social Security? What kind of, like, what would that happen? Because it's interesting that you say that, because in the 1700s, I think the life expectancy was like maybe 40, 45, maybe tops. And now life expectancy is like 80 to 85. Now that's doubled, So it's a very interesting point.
I don't know how long humans can live. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I don't know, like, whether it's even possible to live to 175, but I'm just trying to think of what if you could double your lifespan, because that's what you're referring to, Lorraine, when you talk about changing from 40 to 80. And then let's say we go from
Right.
80 to 160, like this is doubling your lifespan. Gee,
Mm-hmm.
things are very different. It would have a profound effect on our society. Um, yeah.
You
What
most
if
certainly could.
somebody, and I'm sorry, what if, like some of the major issues that we have on earth are solved? We have peace, and then we solve world hunger, and we solve energy. Like all these things may happen. Like I think it would be very interesting to see how it would change our society. But
I agree.
I don't know whether that would be the next evolutionary step. You know, I don't know.
Mm, it's very interesting. But I guess that's kind of like what this film pretty much says is the question of what is the next step of evolution.
And it's out there, right, Lorena? It's going to happen. It's going to
Hmm.
happen. Will it
Hmm.
happen in our lifetimes? I don't know.
That's a good question. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Some people didn't think, hey, they probably thought this is the height of technology. Nothing's gonna change. And you go from, computers that can fill a room to computer that can fit literally, on your arm. All kinds of great stuff.
Lorena, it'll be in my earrings.
Hmm. It'll be wearable technology. That's exactly what it's going. So are we watching a Clockwork Orange now? Yeah, there's so many that's on the schedule. Yeah, we're gonna have to watch that
Yeah,
one.
we're gonna do it.
So many great stuff. So make sure you're subscribed to me. So when we have those watch parties, you can find out what they are. And of course, definitely subscribe to her of Positive Fandom, because you never know when we're doing watch parties over there, because we're actually doing watch parties for season 7 of Outlander. So on her channel. So
Yes.
you do not want to miss that. I'm telling you, this was so much fun to watch. I am loving watching these films from like the late '60s, to like the mid '80s. Just getting that, I want to say, appreciation for the way that filmmaking was done then, risk taking with filmmaking that was done, and you can actually see why directors like Stanley Kubrick are such, legends.
Yeah, and I think for me, this is may not be true for everybody, but for me, this is an art film. It's very special. It has certain elements that I think everybody wants to make a film that's as memorable and as impactful as this. And this, looking at something like this, you could go to the AI and say, "Hey, I want you to make a film like 2001: Space Odyssey," and it'll
Hmm.
pop up. However, that doesn't diminish if you did it on your own. You know,
Right.
you could program the artificial intelligence to do it. However, even if you accomplish it yourself and it looks very similar to the AI, it's completely irrelevant. This is a masterpiece. This is a beautiful um, creation that they did, and every part of it. The production design, the music, the lighting, the special
Hmm.
practical effects. There's no CGI, right, Lorena?
No
Um,
CGI, all practical effects.
and this also comes across, this made space travel seem fun, even if you were scared of how. There was
Hmm.
this sense where they were kind of all waiting in the space station, and they're like, well, I'm going to be hopping on the next flight to the space station. I'll see you later. Like, it felt very hip, very cool. Space travel, airline travel was considered very hip and cool at that time. They really touched on a lot of things that I thought they thought would appeal to people wanting their lives to be like in the future. What do people want their lives to be like in the future now, Lorena? What do people want?
Hmm.
I don't know. Do we know? Does anybody know?
There's so many things that people, want, like stable food sources. I won't say clean energy. I would say affordable affordable energy. Wow, cheaper housing, housing that's cheaper. A way to fold a fitted sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
I think that's required. Yeah.
Automated house maintenance.
Yes, I want Rosie the robot from the Jetsons.
Alan says the future isn't what it used to be, and it should be ever evolving, right, Alan? What do you want the future to be? I mean, for those of you, I don't have children, but for those of you who have children, certainly want the best for your children. What
Mhm.
kind of things are you thinking? What kind of things have your children spoken about or been excited about? Maybe that's the future. But it's something to think about. And yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't have the answer. So it's whereas when this film was made, we knew the space program was the future, right? We knew that was the future.
Yes,
That
we did.
excitement, the thrill, finally going to conquer that. We knew that. But what is our space program? What is that for us?
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're still trying to with regards to the space program, I'm like, what is SpaceX coming up with, you know, next?
And we've seen people take chances, with this horrible wreck that we saw, taking chances, and that's not the future.
Hmm.
It's not. It's the future has to be filled with responsible persons who realize what's going on. Alan says maybe my daughter, but she's 37. Why not? 37 is considered young these days. She's going to live a good long time, Alan. So
Hmm.
she's got like another 50, maybe 60 years ahead of her, I
Absolutely.
suspect. So, what I wonder what young people are expecting or excited about, Lorena. I mean,
I think they're well, I know for some of them that are creative, they're looking forward to being able to express their creativity in different ways. And yes, there is AI, but for them, like different tools to be able to use to do things. Like one of the things that I see, granted, I don't use Photoshop, but I've seen some of them like pull up artwork like before you would have to go to a museum. They can basically open their laptop, say, I want to visit the Louvre, okay, in Paris. Pop open your laptop. Guess what? You're doing a virtual look through the Louvre. Hey, I want to use AR to see what the Mona Lisa would look like on my wall. How big actually is that in reality? And you're using augmented reality to like picture it, literally in your room, on your wall. You're capturing that. You're doing, art, with that. That's just probably just one of the things. You would never think that used to be. I know that when I was little, if I wanted to visit faraway places, like say Fiji or like say look at where Mount Vesuvius is, to actually see where it is. Now, like I showed my nephew, I was like, well, what do you want to look at? He's like, I want to see Madagascar. I said, no, he said Russia. I said, okay. Typed in Russia on my phone on Google Maps and could expand it and contract it, see St. Petersburg, see all of these places. I would not have been able to do that when I was younger. But for him, that's what he's used to seeing. Like this little device can show me any place in the world. And now it's like for granted that that they can do that. So kind of be able to picture things in different ways to kind of make the world like I would say an even smaller place than it is now. Just something I observed.
I like that answer. I think that's excellent, Lorena. Certainly, definitely true. I mean, what you're saying, I hadn't thought about that, and I love that answer. That is very insightful.
I had neither. I just asked him something like that, keep him busy. I'm like, here's a check. Go and do that. Yeah, I had to laugh about that. I forget which sitcom it was. Um, but it was some Russian that defected like to the U.S. and they said that we kidnapped your father from St. Petersburg, and they brought this guy in there, and he's just like, that's not my father. He's like, he lives in St. Petersburg, right? And the guy's like, I was just sitting on the beach in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I get kidnapped. John Moore Jr. said, I just hope the youth don't think digital experiences are better than real experiences. And
Hmm.
I think that's the balance. Because I know when talking to my nephew about different places, it's like, well, what do you want to go when you see there? And you can see certain things and you can touch certain ruins and you can see what it's actually like there. I think that I really do. I There used to be a time when you were a kid, the main thing you wanted to do was travel. Go to places
Yes.
you'd never seen, before. And it's like digital is fine, digital is great, but digital should be the thing that spurs your interest to actually go and see it in person. So I hope so, because too many kids are just like hooked to digital technology. I mean, I knew how to freak out my niece and nephew. Take the internet down. You want some cheap entertainment? Do that. They're like, what can we do? I'm like, read a book.
Mhm. Go for a
You should
walk.
go for a walk, whatever. Can we play PlayStation? Sure. Why is this game so hard? I'm like, oh, Lord. Anyway, story
Aw.
for another time. Oh, well, folks, thank you so much for being here for this watch party for 2001 A Space Odyssey, starring Gary Lockwood. Yet another great Stanley Kubrick film. Now I can see how so many other sci-fi films came from this, and that were inspired. So, you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yes, guys, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Positive Fandom, where I do all the parlay in the fandom. And please do like and subscribe to Positive Fandom. I do have a Sunday brunch show on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can also find me on the Burn Network. Lorraine and I do a show called Ladies of the PGS on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lorraine and I also have another show on her channel, Toxic Male Appreciation, on Lorraine's Twitch channel on
Mm-hmm.
Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and the rebroadcast on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard on her YouTube channel. But guys, I also do a historical video watch party with
Yes.
Darth Plato at 6 p.m. right after Toxic Male Appreciation. And this week upcoming, we're going to be doing a watch party of Gettysburg, guys. So yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it's going to be incredible. That's coming up. And of course, Lorraine, you already mentioned on Friday, you and I will be doing our Outlander watch party. They've been incredible. Oh my gosh, they're so good.
So
Um,
good. Oh, so
Guys,
good.
please do like and subscribe to my channel, Positive Fandom, and like and subscribe to Lorraine's channel right here. Lorraine, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And everybody in the chat,
Oh.
thank you.
Oh, well, you are very welcome. Love having you around for these watch parties. It's so much fun talking to you and bouncing ideas off you, and of course hearing from the chat. And we all talk about it on here. So yes, great having you here. As for myself, I did a live stream earlier today from Disney's Hollywood Studios. So we actually got to see the Indiana Jones stunt show. That's a stunt show that's been going on since I was a kid visiting Hollywood Studios, and it's still fun. Great time. Please go and check that out tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, the replay of Toxic Male Appreciation, where we spotlight Samuel L. Jackson, so you can come hear about his illustrious career and what are kind of like what the top movies of his are. Because with Samuel L. Jackson, the follow up question seems to be, which movie of his is your favorite. And of course, at 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, Welcome to Florida show. We're going to be talking how Florida man does 4th of July. So get
Mhm.
ready for some real crazy stories. And yes, Planet Killer for all mankind, I have heard about. Um, I do have to get to watching it though. I've heard good stuff about it. As soon as I get out of this K drama rabbit hole that I've gone down with something, one of the things that I'm watching. So you folks have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.